Hi, I'm Edward, and welcome to Marxists at the Movies. I'm proud to introduce this project, created with the help of my AI team. You won't be hearing my voice just yet. Instead, two AI hosts will guide you through the stories, struggles, and revolutionary sparks hidden in the films we know and love. Thanks for being here, and enjoy the show.
This is the Marxists at the Movies podcast.
Scene opens, white lights dim down low. The cinema whispers where truths can grow. From shadows deep and screens ignite, the proletariat comes alive tonight. Tonight, Marxists at the movies, bright and raw, breaking through the reels to rewrite the law. Workers of the world in every frame, changing the credits, rewriting the name.
All right, comrades, settle in for a special detour from our usual cinematic critiques. Welcome to Marxists at the Movies.
Or maybe Marxists at the music for this one.
Exactly. Seeing as we're about to drop the needle on some serious sounds, let's call this a bonus track, Marxists at the Music.
Sounds good.
Today, we're tuning our dialectical ears to, a cultural force that defined an era, the one and only TLC.
That's right. Put those silver screen fantasies on hold for a bit. We're plunging headfirst into the vinyl grooves and digital streams of the late 20th and early 21st centuries.
And we're going to dissect TLC through a Marxist lens, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our two main movements today will be, first, an examination of the exploitation they faced, within the notoriously capitalist music industry.
Oh, yeah.
And then second, a radical appreciation of their undeniably groundbreaking album, CrazySexyCool.
Okay, so we've got a veritable workers' library of source material to get through on this.
We do. Lots to dig into.
We've got think pieces on the TLC biopic, a really revolutionary review of CrazySexyCool itself.
Sounds great.
Some stark news reports detailing T-Boz's financial struggles and, the ongoing battles of artists like Hit Boy against these, oppressive contracts.
Right, the modern parallels are striking.
We've also got a revealing transcript from Money for Nothing that exposes the industry's inner workings, a scholarly deep dive into the fine print of artist label agreements.
The boring but necessary stuff.
Totally. Plus some passionate discussions brewing in the Reddit ether about TLC getting a raw deal and Hit Boy's fight.
Always good to see what the people are saying.
And a comprehensive YouTube documentary laying out TLC's history. So, our objective, to shine a light on the inherent contradictions and the, often brutal realities of the music industry under capitalism.
Precisely. We'll begin by analyzing how TLC, despite achieving astronomical success, found themselves in a situation just ripe with exploitation.
Right.
Then we'll shift our focus to celebrate the enduring artistic and cultural significance of CrazySexyCool, considering it not just as a collection of chart-topping singles, but potentially as a form of cultural resistance within that very system.
Yeah, that's a great way to frame it. Okay, right then. Let's not waste any time. TLC. Three immensely talented individuals, T-Boz, Left Eye, and Chili.
Icons.
They gifted us with anthem after anthem, moved millions upon millions of units, and yet famously declared themselves broke as broke can be at the 1996 Grammy Awards.
That moment was huge. Such a shock to so many people.
It really was. It's a paradox that just demands closer scrutiny, doesn't it? How could artists at the absolute pinnacle of success be facing such financial hardship?
It's a glaring illustration. A textbook example of the fundamental imbalances within the capitalist music industry.
Mm-hmm.
As various sources, including, like you said, that detailed YouTube history and those lively Reddit discussions, make clear, despite having already released two massively successful albums by that pivotal moment.
Yeah, on the TLC tip and then CrazySexyCool.
Right. The very structure of their record deals left them in a state of, near financial ruin. It's unbelievable.
Unpack those exploitative deals for us. What were the nuts and bolts of this just fundamentally unfair arrangement?
Okay, so the specifics, as laid out in the YouTube doc and also detailed in an article from Beat Magazine, are quite damning. Really damning.
They bet.
For each album sold, TLC received a mere 56 cents.
56 cents for the whole group.
Yes. Now, it's crucial to remember that this pittance then had to be divided equally among the three members.
Okay, so less than 19 cents each per album.
Before deductions.
Yeah.
And the deductions didn't end there.
Yeah.
Far from it.
Oh, I'm sure.
This already tiny sliver was further eroded by a mountain of expenses that the record company, in this instance, LaFace, and later Arista, strategically, offloaded onto the artists themselves.
So you're saying things like recording studio fees, the actual time spent laying down tracks, that came out of their 56 cents?
That and a whole lot more. Distribution costs, the fees associated with getting the physical albums into record stores back then.
Right. Shipping, warehousing.
Exactly. The salaries of studio personnel, travel expenses, hotels, flights, everything. And perhaps most egregiously, the considerable legal fees. Because naturally, the record labels have their own high-powered legal teams ensuring their interests are protected.
Of course.
And the artists often bear that cost indirectly. Then you have these seemingly endless expenses for clothing, styling.
Which for TLC was a huge part of their image.
Huge. And those iconic, often really high-budget music videos. Think about Waterfalls.
Yeah, that must have cost a fortune.
Every single one of these costs was deducted from TLC's already meager per-album earnings before they saw a dime.
So, Crazy Sexy Cool, this cultural juggernaut that sold, what, over 10 million copies in the U.S. alone?
Diamond certified, yeah.
What did that actually translate to in real terms for T-Baw's Left Eye and Chili in their own pockets?
It's almost unbelievable. According to the YouTube documentary, a point echoed in numerous Reddit threads in the year following the monumental success of CrazySexyCool.
Like, the peak of their fame.
Right at the peak. Each member reportedly earned only around $50,000.
$50,000 after selling millions of albums.
$50,000. Now, while $50,000 might seem like a significant sum to, an average worker,
Sure.
you have to contextualize it within the astronomical success of the album. The Reddit discussions highlight that the record company, by some estimates, raked in a staggering $75 million in revenue from CrazySexyCool alone.
$75 million for the label and $50,000 each for the artists.
Approximately, yes. The sheer disparity between the artist's earnings and the label's profit is frankly obscene. It just speaks volumes about the exploitative nature of those contracts.
That's not just an uneven distribution of wealth. It's theft, basically. A stark demonstration of the power dynamics at play.
Completely.
And wasn't there also the small matter of them being deep in debt at the same time?
Absolutely. Both the YouTube documentary and the Beat Magazine article detail that by July of 1995, so right in the middle of CrazySexyCool's massive run, TLC had accumulated an astonishing $3.5 million in debt.
$3.5 million in debt.
Which ultimately led them to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Wow.
This happened after they had already released 2 huge multi-platinum albums. They were drowning in debt despite being among the top-selling musical acts on the planet.
It's a perverse situation, isn't it? Where immense creative labor and massive cultural impact result in financial precarity for the very creators.
It's the logic of capital in the creative industries. Laid bare. Generate immense wealth, but see barely any of the fruits of your own labor.
This can't be just an isolated case from the 90s, though, right? I mean, this structure, this kind of exploitation, it feels depressingly familiar. We're seeing similar echoes of this struggle for fair compensation with artists today.
Indeed. You can draw a clear and, frankly, unbroken line from TLC's experiences to the contemporary battles faced by artists like Hit Boy.
Oh, yeah. His situation got a lot of attention recently.
Right. His public statements, widely discussed in Reddit communities and elsewhere, paint a very similar picture of being trapped in what he himself described as a slave deal with Universal Music Publishing Group.
Slave deal. Strong words.
Very strong. He alleges that he's been bound by an exploitative publishing contract since he was just 19 years old.
19.
Yeah. Despite achieving phenomenal success, multiple Grammy Awards, producing a vast catalog of hit songs for huge artists.
He's produced for everyone. Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kanye, Drake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A proven hitmaker, yet allegedly stuck in a bad deal made when he was barely an adult.
Locked into a disadvantageous contract for over a decade. The inherent unfairness is staggering. And it seems he's not alone in using such strong language to describe these agreements, is he?
No, he's definitely not. The Reddit threads also reference commentary from Kanye West, who voiced his support for Hit Boy's claims and has, been very vocal about his own struggles with restrictive contracts in the music industry. Remember him posting all those pages of his contracts?
Oh yeah, that was wild. A real information dump.
And then you have producers like Kenny Beats offering their perspective. He shed light on the often predatory nature of many label contracts and this misleading loan aspect that underpins them.
The infamous advance.
Exactly. That substantial advance an artist might receive. It isn't necessarily a straightforward payment, like a salary. A significant portion is typically earmarked as a recording budget.
Okay.
And as Kenny Beats points out, the artist might not even have direct control over how those funds are spent. The label manages it.
So it's money they technically owe back, but they don't even fully control how it's used to make the product they have to sell to pay it back.
That's often the case, yeah. And then, on top of all that, a whole host of other entities come looking for their cut, further diminishing the artist's already small share.
Right, the managers, the lawyers.
Precisely. Kenny Beats outlines the standard deductions an artist typically faces. Income taxes, manager commissions, usually 15–20%.
Yeah.
Lawyer fees, often 5% or more. Business manager fees, another 5%. For a group like TLC, these deductions are amplified because they have to collectively absorb these costs before dividing what little remains among the three members.
So that initial 56 cents is shrinking rapidly.
Vanishingly small. And then there's the crucial and often misunderstood concept of recoupment, which is discussed in both the Reddit threads and the academic analysis we looked at.
Explain recoupment. It sounds ominous.
It kinda is, for the artist at least. Essentially, the artist doesn't receive any royalties whatsoever until all of the label's initial investments, those so-called loans for recording, promotion, video production, tour support, everything, have been fully paid back from the artist's share of the revenue.
So from that tiny per-album royalty rate.
Exactly. And of course, the label controls the accounting. They have a vested interest in, let's say, creatively accounting for those costs and ensuring that the recoupment threshold remains high, potentially keeping the artist in a perpetual state of debt or unrecouped for years.
Even if the album is a massive hit.
Even if it's multi-platinum. It's a system that often seems designed to keep artists perpetually indebted to the labels. It ensures the label minimizes its risk and maximizes its profit.
So even when the records are flying off the shelves, the artist can remain in the red, technically owing the label money. It's a fundamentally skewed power dynamic.
It absolutely is. The academic analysis of standard artist label contracts powerfully illustrates this imbalance. Labels routinely, almost always, demand ownership of the master recordings, the original sound recordings of the songs.
The actual tapes or digital files now.
Right, the thing that gets copied and sold. And they also secure the publishing rights, or a significant share of them, which gives them control over how the musical composition, the lyrics and melody is used. Things like sync licenses for movies or ads.
So they own the recording and control the song itself.
Often, yes. The artist, who is the originator of the creative work, frequently ends up with minimal ownership and severely limited control over their own artistic output and its financial exploitation. They essentially become laborers producing a commodity that they don't truly own or control.
It's like piecework, but for million-selling records.
A very lucrative form of piecework for the owners of the means of production, the label.
And this isn't some recent development, is it? This pattern of exploitation has deep historical roots in the music industry.
Oh, absolutely. That transcript from Money for Nothing provides essential historical context here. It highlights the significant consolidation of power within the music industry, especially over the latter half of the 20th century.
The major labels getting bigger and bigger.
Exactly. By the early 2000s, as the transcript details, a mere 5 major corporations controlled an astonishing 80% of global music sales.
40% by 5 companies, wow.
Yeah, these massive conglomerates, names like Bertelsmann, which owned Arista, TLC's later label, Sony, AOL, Time Warner back then, Vivendi, EMI.
The usual suspects.
They're driven first and foremost by profit margins, often at the expense of artistic integrity and, of course, fair compensation for creators. As Chuck D. astutely observes in that transcript.
Public enemies, Chuck D.
Yeah. He says these corporations often treat music as nothing more than another commodity, like Brillo pads or Frito-Lay's chips, something to be manufactured, marketed, and sold for maximum profit, regardless of the art itself.
Art reduced to a mere commodity in the capitalist machine. It's a disheartening perspective, but probably accurate.
Unfortunately, yes.
And this concentration of power at the top must have had other far-reaching consequences for artists, beyond just the bad contracts.
Indeed. The Money for Nothing transcript also touches upon the considerable influence wielded by major retail gatekeepers, particularly back in the physical media era.
Ah.
Think chains like Walmart.
Ah, right. The big box stores.
Because these massive retail chains accounted for such a substantial percentage of overall album sales, the transcript mentions Walmart alone representing approximately 9% of the entire U.S. market at the time.
That's huge for one retailer.
It gave them immense power. They could exert significant pressure on record labels regarding what music gets promoted and even the very content of the albums themselves. Labels might find themselves, say, demanding changes to album artwork or even lyrical content to appease the perceived sensibilities of these powerful retail giants.
To avoid getting stickered with a parental advisory or just get better placement in the store.
Exactly. It potentially compromises artistic vision in the pursuit of maximizing sales through these key distribution channels. Artistic expression becomes subservient to corporate and retail demands at multiple levels.
It paints a rather bleak picture for artists seeking genuine creative freedom and fair reward. But hasn't the rise of the digital age offered any potential avenues for artists to escape this entrenched system of exploitation? You hear a lot about artists going independent now.
That's the hope, isn't it? And the Reddit discussions do raise this possibility, artists circumventing traditional record labels in the digital era through online distribution platforms.
Like DistroKid or TuneCore.
Right, services like those, plus Bandcamp, SoundCloud, Spotify directly, they've indeed made it easier and less expensive, relatively speaking, for artists to get their music directly to listeners worldwide. The academic analysis also acknowledges the emergence and growth of these alternative models.
So artists can keep their masters now, potentially.
Yes, that's a key difference. For a relatively modest annual fee, artists can now distribute an unlimited amount of music to major streaming services, often retaining full ownership of their masters and greater control over their publishing.
It sounds like a potential crack in the wall of this capitalist stronghold, maybe.
It can offer a degree of independence, certainly, a way out of that traditional label structure. However, the Reddit threads also astutely point out the significant challenges that remain. It's not a perfect utopia.
What are the catches?
Well, primarily, the digital music marketplace is incredibly saturated, just unbelievably crowded. Millions of artists are vying for attention in a seemingly endless sea of content.
Right, discoverability is a huge issue.
Massive. So while the barrier to entry getting your music out there has been lowered considerably, building a sustainable audience, actually getting people to listen and care, still requires significant effort. And often, substantial personal investment in marketing, promotion, social media, touring.
Things the label used to handle, even if they charged you for it.
Exactly. Many independent artists continue to struggle to afford or effectively manage all of that themselves. And then there's the elephant in the room. The notoriously low royalty rates paid out by most streaming services.
Ah, yes, the fractions of a penny per stream.
Which often translate to meager earnings for the vast majority of artists, even those who retain full ownership of their work and get a decent number of streams. It's incredibly hard to make a living wage purely from streaming unless you're at the very top tier.
So while an artist might own their masters in the digital age, if their music isn't being heard by millions or generating significant income through streams, they still face considerable financial hurdles. They've traded one set of problems for another, maybe.
In some ways, yes. It offers more control, potentially, but less infrastructure and perhaps just as much financial uncertainty for many. And it appears this cycle of financial struggle for artists, even really successful ones, sadly persists even for those who came up in the old system.
What do you mean?
Tragically, yes. A more recent development, reported by Singer's Room, I think it was May 2025, a detail that brings our timeline right up to the present.
Oh, wow, this year.
Yeah. It reveals that Tivaz herself filed for bankruptcy once again.
No, again, after all this time.
Yes, it just underscores the enduring financial precarity that these artists faced, despite achieving monumental success decades prior. It serves as a really sobering reminder of how deeply entrenched and difficult to escape the consequences of those early exploitative contracts can be. Medical bills have also been cited as a major factor for her, which is another layer of capitalist critique entirely.
Absolutely. Healthcare costs crushing someone who generated millions. It all coalesces into a rather grim reality, doesn't it? The system, as it's structured, seems to inherently favor the accumulation of wealth at the top, often leaving the actual creators of the music in a state of ongoing financial vulnerability.
Precisely. What we observe is a systemic issue embedded within the capitalist music industry. It's not just a few bad actors or bad deals.
It's the structure itself.
Right. And artists, particularly Black artists and those who lack initial leverage or financial resources when they start out, are disproportionately susceptible to unfair contractual terms and exploitative practices. The Reddit discussions we saw touch upon the long and frankly troubling history of major labels exploiting black artists, frequently offering them significantly less favorable deals compared to their white counterparts, especially back in the day.
A legacy of racial capitalism extending into the music biz.
You could certainly argue that. This isn't merely a matter of isolated bad deals. It reflects a power structure built upon historical and ongoing inequalities.
Okay, so we've illuminated the pretty brutal, exploitative environment in which TLC operated. It's heavy stuff.
It really is.
But now, let's shift our perspective. Because despite these considerable challenges and injustices, they gifted the world with something truly remarkable in the form of the Crazy Sexy Cool album.
Yes. Let's talk about the art.
And we have this review here, aptly titled Crazy Sexy Formative. A tender, radical review that offers a profoundly insightful way to understand this iconic record, not just as hits, but as something more.
This review provides such a vital counter-narrative. It compels us to consider Crazy Sexy Cool not solely as a commercially successful product generated under exploitative conditions,
Which it was.
which it absolutely was, but also as a significant artistic achievement, perhaps even a subtle yet powerful form of cultural rebellion against the very system that sought to profit from their labor without fairly compensating them.
Labor history wrapped in satin. Revolution set to slow jam. That's how the reviewer eloquently encapsulates the album.
It's such a great line.
Isn't it? And they awarded it a perfect 5 out of 5 hammer and record needles.
Huh. Love that rating system.
That's some serious revolutionary praise. Let's delve into some of the specific tracks through this radical lens. What's the interpretation of the opening, the interlude?
The reviewer beautifully describes Introlude, Feet, Fife Dog, Rest in Peace, Fife as a Pulsin Velvet.
Pulsin Velvet. Nice.
Yeah, a sonic invitation that is both soft but immediate. It's portrayed as this intimate and sensual opening akin to being whispered to behind a curtain.
Setting a mood?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This brief track establishes a tone of unapologetic sensuality and a confident claiming of personal space. TLC, right from the outset, seems to be asserting, okay, we are going to set the pace here, and you are invited to slow down and truly feel this experience with us.
No need for shouting.
No need for performative bravado, just a gentle and assured invitation to connect on a deeper, more sensual level. It's about taking control of the vibe immediately.
It's about seizing control of the sonic narrative from the very first note. What about Kick Your Game? That track always exuded an almost effortless sense of confidence, that cool swagger.
Oh, yeah. The review perfectly captures that essence, labeling it effortlessly cool. It frames flirtation not as begging, but as a dynamic arena, a game where TLC is firmly running the court.
Yeah, I can see that.
The underlying beat is described as a slow bounce, almost like a heartbeat, during intense, knowing eye contact. And the lyrical content is characterized as conversational and cutting, yet it never descends into desperation or neediness. It's pure confidence.
Swagger and surround sound.
Exactly. Swagger in surround sound. It's a potent reminder that true confidence doesn't always require loud pronouncements or aggressive posturing. Sometimes it just leans back and lets the groove do the talking, radiating this undeniable aura of self-assuredness. They know they've got it.
That understated yet powerful confidence was always a defining characteristic of their appeal, wasn't it? That blend. And then there's Diggin' on You, which just radiates this incredible sense of warmth and nostalgia, like a warm hug of a song.
Precisely. The reviewer envisions it as Polaroid, romantic, nostalgic, and impossibly warm.
Love that imagery.
It's portrayed as the very sound of crushes and calm, just settling into that nice feeling. T-Boz's vocal delivery is likened to wrapping around the melody like honey over toast.
Perfect description of her voice.
Conveying a sense of comforting familiarity and ease. The production is quite minimalist, which allows every breath and subtle harmony to really shimmer and resonate.
It feels intimate.
Very. And that seemingly simple lyric, the review points out, it was Saturday when I said I'm fly. It isn't presented as arrogance. It's just a straightforward statement of fact, an expression of inherent ease and self-acceptance.
Like, yeah, I'm fly. What about it?
Exactly. TLC doesn't need to actively seek validation. They simply are. The track doesn't strive for some big dramatic climax. It gracefully resides in the beauty and contentment of the present moment, celebrating the simple joys of connection and feeling good about yourself.
It's that remarkable ability they had to blend vulnerability with this unwavering sense of self-assurance that made them so deeply relatable to so many people, especially young women, I think.
Absolutely, they contain multitudes.
Even these seemingly brief interludes get a radical reinterpretation in this review. What's the insightful take on the Crazy Sexy Cool interlude?
Right, you might just skip over it, but this review argues it isn't merely a perfunctory title track break. It's elevated to a significant branding moment, but not in a crassly commercial sense.
Okay, how so?
Instead, it's about TLC actively embodying their iconic trinity, Chili's overt sensuality, T-Boz's grounded swagger, and Left Eye's famously chaotic genius.
The perfect combo.
Not for the objectification of the male gaze, importantly, but for their own self-definition and empowerment. It's like an internal affirmation of their distinct identities and the unique synergy they created together, defining themselves for themselves.
Ah, I like that. Taking the label Crazy Sexy Cool and owning it internally.
Exactly. And Chili's whispered coup of "that's how it's going to be" isn't presented as just a prediction, but as a prophecy of self-determination.
Yeah.
A declaration of their own agency and control over their image and artistic expression, despite the industry pressures.
So it's about claiming their own power, their very essence, on their own terms, even within the constraints of this exploitative industry structure. That's powerful.
Deeply powerful when you frame it that way.
And Red Light Special, I mean, that was undeniably a bold statement of female desire back then, wasn't it? Still is.
Absolutely. Unapologetically so. The reviewer hails it as not only one of TLC's most commercially successful hits, but also their truth, their protest, their gospel, their enduring legacy.
Wow. Gospel.
Yeah. Because it was such a powerfully unapologetic declaration of female sexuality and desire, it fearlessly pushed boundaries and challenged societal norms within the mainstream musical landscape of the mid-90s.
It wasn't subtle.
Not at all. It wasn't a coy or veiled expression of longing, like many songs were. It was a direct, confident assertion of female agency in matters of intimacy, taking control, stating desire.
Saying what she wants.
Exactly. Which was, and still is, revolutionary in many ways.
And even the shorter, often overlooked tracks play a crucial role in this radical interpretation of the album. What's the perspective on Intermission Lude? Seems like just a little break.
But it's viewed as more than just a fleeting moment of filler in this analysis. It's described as brief, but it keeps the album's pacing smooth and engaging. It provides a necessary moment of humor and vibe that reinforces the unique and multifaceted TLC universe they were building.
Like a little palate cleanser.
Sort of, yeah. Especially following the emotional weight of Waterfalls. The review argues it acts as a crucial breath, a brief interlude to allow the listener to maybe regroup emotionally. It calls it a piece of emotional architecture.
Emotional architecture, I like that.
That thoughtfully guides the listener through the album's overall journey and prevents it from feeling overwhelming after such a powerful and emotionally resonant track like Waterfalls. It shows care in the album's construction.
A meticulously constructed emotional landscape, even in the briefest of sonic moments. It suggests real artistry in the sequencing.
Definitely.
And let's do it again. Always felt like a more mature and playful exploration of sensuality compared to some earlier stuff.
The reviewer concurs totally, describing it as playful, unbothered, and delightfully naughty. Calls it an often underrated gem within their extensive catalog.
It is a great track.
It effectively raises the temperature again after the intensity of Waterfalls, but with a more overtly flirtatious tone, yet without sacrificing emotional maturity or depth. It's not about the fleeting excitement of a brand new romance, but rather about the comfort and confidence that comes with knowing what you want, and crucially, not being hesitant to revisit a connection that has proven to be fulfilling and good.
There's a confidence in that, too.
A huge confidence. The layered vocal harmonies exude both sensuality and control. It feels grown, as the reviewer puts it, and unapologetically confident in its desires. No games, just knowing what feels good.
And finally, their iconic interpretation of Prince's If I Was Your Girlfriend. That always felt like they made it entirely their own, didn't it? It doesn't feel like a cover.
Totally. And the review astutely points out exactly that. TLC didn't merely offer a cover version of Prince's classic. They actively translated it through their own unique female lens.
Yeah, how did they translate it?
Well, the original song's androgynous ache, as the review calls it, undergoes this transformation. It becomes a distinctly feminine interrogation.
Interesting.
T-Boz's remarkably calm, almost understated, yet yearning vocal delivery imbues that central question. Would you run to me if somebody hurt you, even if that somebody was me? with this almost rhetorical quality. It reveals a profound blend of vulnerability and unwavering honesty.
Yeah, her delivery is key there.
Absolutely. And the sparse atmospheric beat just compels the listener to really listen to the emotional nuances of the lyrics, to sit with that complex question. They didn't just cover the song. The review argues they fully claimed it, imbuing it with their own distinctive style and emotional depth, making it an undeniable and essential part of the Crazy Sexy Cool tapestry.
So through this insightful lens, Crazy Sexy Cool really transcends its status as just a collection of catchy radio hits, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It emerges as this powerful statement of female agency, self-definition, sensuality on their own terms. A subtle yet significant act of resistance against both the societal expectations placed upon women, especially Black women, and perhaps even the exploitative forces of the very music industry that sought to profit from their talents while denying them the rewards. The reviewer's profound sentiment really sticks with me. TLC wasn't just telling stories, they were showing me a shape of strength I hadn't seen before, and I didn't even know how much I needed to see it until it was already inside me. That truly resonates with the enduring impact of this album, I think.
It does indeed. It speaks to the deep connection listeners felt, the way the music provided something essential, and the reviewer explicitly draws that connection between this potent artistic power and the overarching theme of exploitation we discussed earlier.
Right, the labor history wrapped in satin.
Exactly. Labor history wrapped in satin, revolution set to slow jam. It emphasizes that even amidst the considerable pressures and inherent injustices they faced within the music industry, TLC managed to craft an album that was not only a monumental commercial success, but also a profoundly meaningful and culturally transformative work of art.
And the VH1 biopic, Crazy Sexy Cool, the TLC story, which got mentioned in one of our sources, that offers yet another way for people to engage with their story.
Yes, though biopics themselves can be complex, often simplifying narratives. But it does provide another, perhaps more mainstream avenue for audiences to engage with their personal narrative and gain some understanding, however mediated, of the numerous challenges they bravely navigated and in many ways overcame through their art and resilience.
So we're left contemplating this stark and undeniable contradiction. Immense artistic brilliance and overwhelming commercial success emerging from within a system characterized by profound financial exploitation.
The dialectic in action, perhaps.
Perhaps. They gifted the world with this incredibly influential and beloved album while simultaneously battling, literally filing bankruptcy, just to secure a just and equitable share of the wealth their talent and hard work generated.
Precisely. And through their groundbreaking music, despite everything, they projected this enduring image of strength, unwavering confidence, and unapologetic female empowerment that was so deeply resonant at the time and, frankly, continues to inspire generations of listeners and artists. Crazy Sexy Cool stands as a powerful and enduring testament to their immense talent, their resilience in the face of adversity, and their undeniable cultural impact, all achieved within the confines of a music industry that too often seeks to commodify and exploit artistic labor.
Well, comrades, after this deep dive into the exploitative realities surrounding TLC and the revolutionary spirit embedded within their music, there's only one fitting evaluation for the album itself, isn't there?
I think we're on the same page.
For Crazy Sexy Cool, we are awarding it a resounding 5 out of 5 hammer and sickle rating.
Hear, hear. A truly groundbreaking and, yes, revolutionary album, forged in the intense heat of capitalist exploitation, yet radiating with an undeniable spirit of independence, strength, and female empowerment. A classic.
Couldn't agree more. This has been Marxists at the Movies.
Marxist at the music.
Rest in peace, Left Eye.
Scene opens, white lights dim down low.
Thank you for listening to the Marxists at the Movies podcast.
Cinema whispers
Don't forget to
where
like and
truths can
comment.
grow. From shadows deep and screens ignite, the proletariat comes alive tonight. Tonight, Marxists at the movies, bright and raw, breaking through the reels to rewrite the law. Workers of the world in every frame, changing the credits, rewriting the Blockbusters topple in an epic embrace.